Good evening and welcome to Sports Today. Well, 24 hours after, nearly 24 hours after India's superb win over England, thanks in no small measure to the two young debutants, Krunal Pandya and Prasidh Krishnas, and of course, the majestic Shikhar Dhawan. He scored 98 too. Uh, there's so much to talk about India's future. The future is here for India, it seems, right? But before we head over to Deep Dasgupta to talk about the young guns and India's prospects in the series after that emphatic win, here's a quick look at why you should download the House app.
क्या आप भी किसी अपने सपने मेरे तुम्हारे टीम 11 पे टीम बना रहे हो और बच्चों के साथ खेल रहे हो? हमारे साथ खेलोगे? हाउस ऐप पे खेलो लेजेंड्स के साथ, हमें हराओ और जीतो डबल कैश. लॉग ऑन टू houseapp.com and win real cash.
Well, do download the House app, make your own teams, and challenge the legends. It's going to be fun, trust me. Do try the House app, download it, start playing. But Deep, what a moment this has been for Indian cricket. Like, look at the last 4 months. We've been talking about Krunal Pandya scoring that record-breaking 50 on debut, Prasidh Krishnas 4-wicket haul, go back to the Test series, Akshar Patel, go back to Australia, Washington Sundar, T. Natarajan, Mohammad Siraj, Shardul Thakur. Well, discount those 11 deliveries in his maiden Test match. Then he comes to Australia, does the job for India. It's just Indian cricket is the gift that keeps giving, right? Look at the India 8 tours, look at Mumbai Indians, look at the cricket in the series.
Yeah, I mean, it's again a validation for the system that we have in the country. Again, it's something that we've spoken before, and I mean, it's like you said. I mean, it's a gift that keeps giving because the fact of the matter is, you see all these youngsters coming through, and even the T20I series, this series, every newcomer who comes in, it seems like he's ready to take on the world. And that's such a huge thing. I mean, that's a huge advantage that India has. Again, credit goes to everyone, not just the team, the players, obviously the players, but also the back end, the staff, the system, people who are working in the system. I think just this validation of how good or robust the system is.
Absolutely. And what did you make of Krunal Pandya before we go to Prasidh Krishna? Because, when he came in, India were, Lokesh Rahul was struggling to get going. In fact, the debutant came in and eased the pressure for Rahul, didn't he? And he just didn't look like it was, again, much like Ishan Kishan, Surya Kumar Yadav, Washington Sundar, didn't quite really look like he was playing his first international game. How about that?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, listen, it just gave you the feeling that they've been there before. They've done it. And I guess to a certain extent, you've got to give credit to IPL as well, in terms of, how, as youngsters coming through, they play IPL, which is, I won't say international cricket, but a couple of notches below international cricket. But at least, just the fact that they spend time with international players or with international players, how they set it up, I mean, how they set themselves up for big games under pressure, I mean, all of that. I mean, let's say apart from the level of cricket, IPL has everything else, crowd and pressure, the spotlight, everything else. So I think it's just a great kind of learning process for the players coming through the system as well. So I think, yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, Krunal was such an important innings because at that point in time, I mean, India had scored. I mean, the brakes were on and weren't it seemed like they've lost the momentum with those few wickets, back-to-back wickets. But then Krunal came in and he just took it away. I mean, took the game away from the English bowlers, and then obviously KL Rahul followed. But Krunal, what a knock from him. I mean, the way he came and batted was phenomenal.
Absolutely. And what about that moment, Deep, when Hardik presented the cap to Krunal? You were at the ground. I don't know if you got to see a lot of that, but it was just emotional. And when the broadcasters tried to speak to Krunal at the mid innings break, he was just emotional. But he managed to dedicate and knock to his father. Great sights that.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, obviously we are all aware of the bereavement in the family, and obviously they were very close, and obviously, I mean, if it's your dad, and it just showed. I mean, and that's the kind of character that Krunal is. He's emotional, and we've seen that before. He's emotional, and he he shows. I mean, that's the other thing about the new generation, right? They let their emotions show. They're not afraid of showing their emotions, which is which is just fine. End of the day, if you're doing the job, it's just fine. And just good to see Krunal getting a game in ODI format as well, and also kind of letting the world know that he belongs there.
And what does this combination of brothers do to teams? Deep, we've seen Irfan and Yusuf Pathan together, the War brothers, the Flower brothers. It does it bring that extra impetus from two cricketers to do well for the country? It's very rare that you see two boys from the family, the same age group, playing together. I'm sure that adds a lot of morale to the team environment, doesn't it?
It does. I'm sure it does. And obviously, I mean, this particular Indian team, there is a lot of camaraderie. You can see that on the field. And one of the biggest example of the camaraderie is that every time that the team is under pressure, they've fought back, and they've fought back how. So that just tells you about the dressing room environment, the people who are involved in that dressing room. I mean, the team management, the players themselves. That just says a lot about the players themselves, and also the people in that dressing room, people who are backing these players. So I guess it's just absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely. And also, word on Prasidh Krishna, right? You see one pacer after another. Look back at Jasprit Bumrah 4 years, 5 years ago, and now there's like a barrage of seamers. What is it about the Indian system that is suddenly giving that push? And what did you make of Prasidh Krishna? Ready product? Good enough to invest in the future?
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. You know what was most impressive about Prasidh was third over, he went for 22, right? He was taken off the attack. And then when he came back, he looked a different bowler. I had the opportunity of speaking to him after the game, and I was like, what was going on? And what was so pleasing to hear was that he said, third over that he bowled, he got the lengths wrong. He quickly kind of figured out that he has to sort out his length, and he could make those changes. It's very easy for us to say, oh, he's bowling short or he's bowling to full, but in practice, it's not something which is very easy to do. Suddenly change your lengths during a game, but someone like him could do it. So that just tells you the control that he has over his skill set, and that is very, very impressive. And someone like him, see, Prasidh's been around for a while, right? He's been in the fringes for almost a year now. We've been hearing that he might be in sometimes soon, but finally he's got an opportunity, and he's capitalized. He's grabbed the opportunity that he was given. Talking about this fast bowlers coming through, also the fact that, I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, I still remember, was the Australia series in 2014 where Virat first started captaining the test side, and something that he mentioned that he needs faster bowlers. I think a lot of emphasis has been given to fast bowling, because one of the targets of this Indian team was to go abroad and win series outside India, outside the subcontinent. So there was a lot of emphasis on that. For that meant, once you have that kind of a target, then obviously you have to have that process as well. And the process meant that there was a fitness regime. There were, kind of trying out younger, faster bowlers, the India A system. And also Prasidh's come off a very, very good Vijay Hazare tournament. He picked up 14 wickets. I think in the game he picked up a couple of wickets at least. So, you could see all that coming together when you saw Prasidh bowling there.
Absolutely. It's so great to see, right? For years and years, we've seen great batsmen coming off the system, and now spinners after that alongside, and now pacers. It's just this, the circle is complete. But also to speak of the established stars, and it was good to see the way the Indian team management backed them, right? Shikhar Dhawan, of course, Virat said he would be his preferred opener alongside Rohit in ODIs, and Rahul. That was good to see. Of course, Rishabh Pant is confident enough of performing across formats now, but good to see both these men being backed, and they delivered on the big stage.
Absolutely, and how many times has Shikhar done that? Every time they've been chat about, maybe he's over the hill, maybe we should start looking beyond him. He's come up with the goods, and this is no different. He's done that before as well, Shikhar. So yeah, every time he's under pressure, he comes up with the stuff. That's that, and then Rahul. I think Rahul, we all know. I mean, he's a class act. There's no two ways. Yes, he's out of form for whatever reason. Personally, I think he should have played domestic cricket while he was there with the test side. You already have Mayank Agarwal, a part of the test side, so chances of him playing a test, I don't know. For me, maybe wasn't sure whether he's going to get a game or not. In the meantime, maybe he could have gone and played say the Mushtaq Ali or Vijay Hazare tournament. And kind of it's not easy because before the T20I series, the last time he played any competitive cricket was in December in Australia. So it's not easy coming after 2-3 months and coming and playing competitive cricket, that too at this level, at international level, against the number one side, whether it's T20 or ODIs. So it's just I'm so happy to see KL Rahul back amongst runs, because he's a class act. There's no two ways about how good he is as a player, KL Rahul.
Right. I know, Deep, we also discussed this before the match, but what did you make of India's approach, especially in the first 20 overs, right? They got 317, they still won by 66 runs. But then you're up against an England batting lineup. Few of them have strike rates of over 100. If they don't have strike rates of over 100, it's in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
Would you rather that there is a more of a push in the middle overs and maybe not be as conservative in the 20 overs because the bowlers pulled it off, but still were they? I know it's feels strange to ask this question even after 317, but do you reckon that they could have still been 20, 30 runs short?
But Raj, the way the English team is set up, it's very batting heavy. Whether in white ball cricket, I mean that's their philosophy in terms of is being batting heavy, making sure there is enough batting depth. And against a team like that, you have to pick wickets, and that's what happened in the last game as well. In the middle overs, unfortunately, in the first 15 odd overs or the 14 overs, India did not pick a wicket. But post that, the reason why they could win this game was because there were no partnerships. There were wickets being picked up by the Indian bowlers. And that's the difference. And if you see, I mean, irrespective of what format you're playing, end of the day, if you want to stop the opposition, you've got to pick wickets. And that's where I think picking wickets in the first power play overs are so important, especially against a team like England who are batting heavy.
No, absolutely, and they did. And India did that without Bumrah, Shami, Jadeja. We've been talking about the rise of the Test series and now the T20s and the ODIs as well. Shardul Thakur getting another double wicket over. England, is this now in the mind? Australia probably felt that in the Test series because this Indian team just keeps coming back. They're relentless. They don't give up. They just claw onto you, right? And it happened in the first ODI as well. They just wouldn't give up. Is that begin to play on the England psyche now?
I don't think it would, because that's what you expect from a top side. You expect, never die attitude. That's the reason Indian team is so good, or that's the reason that English team is so good, or the Australian. So the reason why teams have been good consistently over a period of time is because you're not going to be on the top all the time. There'll be games where you're behind the red ball, the 8 ball. There would be times when you would be under pressure. You're under the cosh, but that's when champion teams and good teams, they bounce back. So I don't think English team will be too surprised with that, because obviously they are aware of how good the Indian side is as well. And let's not forget that England is the defending world champions. They are number one in the ICC rankings in both T20 and ODIs, and there's a reason for that, because they've actually been a top side in white ball cricket for the last 2-3 years. There's absolutely no two ways about it.
No, absolutely, and also the fact that there's so many of these Indian players coming through, and they're doing that as well, right? Because they've adopted the Indian attitude, the Virat Kohli, the Ravi Shastri attitude of not giving up at all. But also, Deep, a word about Shreyas Iyer now, right? Because unfortunate injury, that partial dislocation, most likely out of the remainder of the ODIs, probably will miss a part of the IPL too. Unfortunate, but that again paves the way for Surya Kumar Yadav, perhaps. Or do you think Rahul could move up the order and Rishabh Pant could come in the middle order, even though Rahul might retain those wicket-keeping gloves? Which of these two alternatives do you see?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one. So, because there are a couple of injuries there, we are still not aware. Obviously, we know about the partial dislocation of Shreyas' shoulder, and a few of our viewers have asked that question. So he seems to be out of the series. Shreyas Iyer, in that case, if it's only Shreyas Iyer, we might see, as you mentioned, maybe KL coming and batting at 4 and Rishabh at 5, or Rishabh at 4. You want a left-hander in there, you might just put Rishabh there at 4. Now, if also Rohit is kind of injured, then it becomes very, very interesting. Whether then what you do is put KL Rahul to open, get Rishabh there and Surya Kumar there. in the middle order. So I think these are the options that the Indian team has, and if you see most of these batsmen, they're very very flexible. Someone like a Surya or a Rishabh, they're very flexible with the batting order. KL Rahul, for that matter, he can open, he can bat at 5, he can bat at 3. So you have that flexibility with the Indian batsman. So I think that also helps because it'll be interesting to see how the Indian management go about with this, and most importantly, how Rohit is feeling. If Rohit is fine and is up for the next couple of games, then there's only one force change, but you might be looking at two also.
Yeah, well, I saw Boria's tweet, and from that, what he says is that Rohit should be fit for the next couple of ODIs, and that will be a big relief to the Indian team, right? You wouldn't want to go into battle in shorter formats cricket, especially without Rohit Sharma at the top. But around the youngsters, Deep, we've had, because there have been so many questions, opinions on the younger ones doing so well. Ashish O is asking you, Deep, what did Rahul Dravid do so differently at the NCA? What has he done so differently that we are getting so many ready to go players?
I think obviously, I mean, Rahul's done, and his team. Let's not forget he's not alone there, right? You have people like Paras Mamre, who's a fabulous coach. So there are other coaches there. WV now, he's the coach of the Indian women's team, but a couple of years before that, he was part of that NCA team of coaches. You have Abhay Sharma. So I think the whole team has done really well. I think the system, obviously, and when I say system, everyone, including Rahul, his team, everyone's involved. Because a couple of things is one, the India A, the structure that is in place for the last few years, that also helps because there's a lot of India A games, the IPL. I mean, you can't just say one person, one individual, or one particular aspect has helped because it's the system, and you've got to give credit to the system and everyone involved, which obviously includes someone like Rahul Dravid, who's such an important aspect of the system. So yeah, it's credit to everyone who's part of it.
Right. I'll take a couple more questions, Deep. Satish Kumar Panda is asking why is India having problems picking up wickets early on in the power play, especially after the 2019 World Cup? What happened actually, or do you think India need to change something else to take those early wickets in the power play?
I don't think India should look to change much. Obviously, you someone like Prasidh Krishna looked dangerous in the first couple of overs as well. With the ball swinging, I mean, it's another big positive. We don't talk enough because we take Bhuvneshwar Kumar for granted. But again, it's a huge positive. Him coming out of his injury and bowling as well as he did before he got injured, I think that's a huge positive as well. So I think yes, it is a very very important aspect of any format of the game, taking wickets, and especially in the first few overs in white ball cricket. I think it'll only get better. Bhuvi's looking good because there are days where you've got to go to the batsman if they're batting well. I mean, which Jason Roy did fabulously well, and even so Johnny Bairstow. But at least the bowlers are looking to pick wickets. That is important. As long as you're aggressive, you're attacking in the mindset, in your field placement, I think that's fine. Some days you will pick wickets, some days you won't. But looking at this attack, it seems like they are, because the lengths that Bhuvneshwar, I don't know, maybe Bhuvi might want to bowl a little fuller, just a little. I mean, 6 inches fuller, closer to the batsman. Might be. I'm just saying. But let's not forget, we'll have Shami back. We'll have Bumrah back. They are out and out wicket taking bowlers, the wicket taking option. So yeah, I mean, I'm just waiting to see all of them coming back. But yeah, it's a very very important aspect. No two ways.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. The full strength bowling attack is yet to come back. And Sunshine Khan has a question on Virat Kohli. Of course, Virat hasn't scored an international 100 since November 2019. So Sunshine is asking, why has he not been able to score 100? Is the pressure of scoring a century getting to him?
Not really. I don't think so. Somebody who's already scored 43 in this format, I don't think he'll be worried too much getting a few more. But yeah, I mean, I thought the last game he looked like. I mean, I thought he was going to get the way he was batting. He totally dominated the bowling. Unfortunately, he picked out the fielder, and that was his favorite shot, right? Whipping on his pads. That's his favorite shot. Unfortunately, he just found the fielder. But yeah, it's just a matter of time. I won't be too worried. I mean, as long as he's batting well, it's around the corner. I wouldn't be surprised the next couple of games he picks up. He gets 100.
Okay, and I'll take this last question from our viewers. It's somebody asked a very interesting question because of the combination around the team, right? Vaibhav Jain, how difficult is it for a batsman to start bowling? I mean, it's like you're acquiring a new set of skills, but how difficult is it for someone like Shreyas Iyer, right? He can bowl, but do you think there is more breathing space? Rohit Sharma has not bowled for a while, so that could lend some balance to the team.
See, I don't think Rohit will bowl now. I mean, he's had his fair share of injuries with his shoulder, so he has stopped bowling. But someone like Shreyas, because I see him before the game starts during the warm-ups and all, like, he bowls. So would expect Shreyas to bowl. And I have a theory behind why, because we were having this discussion. Because if you go back a generation ago, you'll see a lot of the top order batsmen at least contributing with a couple of overs or 4-5 overs. What has happened of late is the way we practice has changed, right? Earlier on, everyone, because we didn't have bowling machines, we didn't have those specialist people who would come and throw, right? So you would have everyone bowling in the nets, even the batsmen. So every batsman would bowl. But now with those side armors, those and they're very, very important and good. Please don't get me wrong. They are very, very essential part of every team. But what has also happened with bowling machine and all that is that the bowler, as in the batsman, they aren't bowling enough in the nets, and maybe they don't need to. And maybe that's one of the reasons you don't see as many batsmen bowling. And that's where I think, if you look at the selectors and the team management, they've looked at a couple of these players in the last two series who can bat in the top 5, 6 and can bowl as well. For example, a Rahul Tewatia was picked for the T20Is. He could do that. Obviously, got Krunal Pandya who could do that. So I think there is obviously a serious thought been given to that aspect as well. And like I said, I keep seeing Shreyas bowling during the warm-ups.
Right. And moving into the second ODI, Deep, just a couple of days away. It's interesting to see what England do from here, because Warren Morgan batted with an injury. Sam Billings had an injury on the field.
Yes.
We don't know their updates yet, but if either of them or both of them miss out, it's going to be a pretty dodgy English side. No Jofra Archer either.
Yeah, I mean, but they have someone like a Livingstone who's been very good, and he can bowl. He bowls both off spin. Bit of off spin and bit of leg spin. So yeah, I mean, there's a good chance that he might play if one of them are not fit enough. Morgan, I think he's got 4 or 5 stitches, right? The webbing between his thumb and his forefinger. That to top hand, so there is a chance that he might not play. There's a fair chance. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be easy. We are talking about 2 quality batsmen, especially Morgan. Even though he's not in form, he hasn't scored many runs in the strip. But he's quality. I mean, we can't deny that he's class. Yeah. So obviously there is somebody, as somebody mentioned, you have David Malan there as well. So they have enough backup that way, and quality backups as well.
Right. Of course, even if Morgan does not play, his leadership, right, is calm and collected. It's like the complete antithesis of Virat Kohli, which is he's a different leader, but Morgan's leadership will also be important in this scenario to try and come back.
Oh yeah, I mean, as far as Morgan, Owen Morgan, the captain is concerned, he's one of the best captains in the world right now. I mean, the way he's taken this English white ball team forward in the last couple of years, have made them the ODI world champions. I think he's absolutely fabulous in terms of a leader. You can see that. You can see that in his body language, the way he speaks. He comes across as a very, very good statesman as well. So yeah, I mean, they will definitely miss him if he's not playing. As in Morgan, the batsman, and also Morgan, the leader. But having said that, I mean, they have a philosophy that they've been following for the last 2-3 years. And if you look at the nucleus of this team, it's almost the same. So even if he's not playing and Josh Buttler takes over as the standing captain in his absence, I think they will still follow and continue with the same philosophy. And I don't think there'll be change as such in how they approach the games if he's not playing. But yeah, I mean, he definitely, if he's not playing, that'll be a big miss for England.
Absolutely. But it'll be a riveting contest. These two teams have just been at each other, right through the test matches, the T20Is, and now we'll wait and see what happens in the second ODI. Though India have got off to a winning start, right? It's for a change. India won the first game of the opening encounter. You're not too worried, Deep, are you? What's going to happen from here on? India will. It looked like they look pretty balanced and sorted now.
It looks very, very balanced with 6 bowling option, even though Hardik did not bowl. But obviously, we know he has started to bowl. I mean, he's bowled in the T20Is. If not 10 overs, then I'm sure he's good enough to bowl 4-5 of them. But this combination looks really nice. And now what you need to do is when you're, the top guy, someone like a Bumrah comes back, or maybe even Jadeja comes back, then you can just straight away fit them in that puzzle. So, I mean, it's a combination which is important, and I think I think this combination looks really nice with 6 bowling option, with batsmen who can bowl and bowlers who can bat. People like Shardul Thakur. I mean, he's a very, very decent batsman. Bhuvneshwar, especially in ODI format, he's a very decent batsman. He won a man of the match award for his batting against Sri Lanka. So I think that combination is very, very important. Now you have to kind of fill in those people. For example, somebody just mentioned about Deepak Chahar. Listen, again, Deepak Chahar is very much like someone like a Bhuvneshwar Kumar, right? Deepak Chahar is a very, very handy batsman as well. There is, first thing is you've got to get the combination right, which I think India's got the combination right. Now you have to kind of, if you want to change places, change personnel, just like for like would be just fine.
Absolutely, and this just great to see. Well, Bhuvneshwar Kumar, a word on that before we go deep, is just, you reckon he's among the best or the best bowler in shorter formats cricket? Look at the way he's just come back. I know it's difficult to compare with the likes of Mitchell Starc, Bumrah, and all these guys around, but he's got to be right up there, that guy.
See, the thing is, Bhuvneshwar, when you look at him, he's not one who would bowl at 145 clicks an hour or whatever. I mean, when you look at him, he comes across as somebody very average, but he's not. He's like you mentioned. I mean, he's one of the best in the world right now in white ball cricket, because it's very rare that somebody who's very good with the new ball and also with the old ball. So he's someone who's when we call banker, he's like a proper banker. He's going to bowl all the difficult overs, and he's so calm. I think his biggest asset is the fact that he's so calm under pressure. He reads the game really, really well. He reads the batsman really well, the game situation well. And then obviously the confidence that he has over his skill set. I mean, he's just fabulous, and definitely he's one of the top bowlers in the world.
I like the words Deep Dasgupta uses sometimes. Banker. He's a wicket keeper and now a commentator. You weren't a very talkative wicket keeper, were you, Deep, on the lines of Rishabh Pant? You were more solid and quieter. Were you very talkative?
Rishabh's in a different league. I did my bit, what I had to, but yeah, Rishabh's in a different league.
And you're in a different league as a commentator, as a lot of your fans, a lot of our fans on Sports Today, including us, would say. Absolute gem, and it's always good to have you. Good to always get to see you right bang on about your pitch report. You did say there was a lot of runs to be had on that surface, and look how that turned out. But we'll also wait to see what your pitch report would be like for the second ODI and how India and England come at each other, how England come back, and whether India can carry on this momentum. But thank you so much, Deep Dasgupta, for your analysis, for your views. We'll, of course, be back with more. I'll be back in the morning at 10. Boria will be back in the evening at 5. And we will, again, of course, do a full build-up to the second ODI with Deep Dasgupta, Pragyan Ocha, and Boria Mojumdar, and bring you more after that second game in Pune on Friday. But thank you so much for joining us. Do download the Hauser app, make your own teams and challenge the legends. And do not forget to subscribe to Sports Today. Thank you so much for supporting this platform. Have a very good evening.